July 23, 1940. Washington, D.C., the sweltering humidity of a capital gripped by war drums seeping in from Europe. In a nondescript Army procurement office on the third floor of the munitions building, Major General Russell L. Maxwell wipes sweat from his brow, the fan overhead whirring uselessly against the heat. Papers scatter across his desk, blueprints, bids, sketches of half-baked prototypes, each one a desperate grasp at solving the Army's nightmare, how to move men and machines faster than the enemy in a world war that's already devouring nations. Maxwell leans back, lighting a Chesterfield, the smoke curling like the fog of uncertainty that's haunted American planners since the fall of France. "Gentlemen," he says to the room of engineers and contractors huddled around a scale model of a rugged little vehicle. "We need something tough as nails, light as a scout, and versatile enough to haul a squad through hell. No more mules or horses getting mired in the mud." The words hang heavy. The U.S. Army's current rides, clunky Dodge trucks and outdated motorcycles, can't keep pace with the blitzkrieg thunder rolling across the Atlantic. Enter the bidders. Willys-Overland, a scrappy Ohio outfit with a reputation for overland trucks. Ford, the assembly line giant itching to pivot from civilian cars. And Bantam, a tiny Pennsylvania upstart that's poured its soul into a radical design. You've seen the newsreels, the Panzers slicing through Poland like hot knives. But here in this stuffy room, the fate of American mobility teeters on a 1/4-ton reconnaissance car. Bantam's prototype, the BRC, roars to life outside on the testing grounds earlier that day, its 45-horsepower engine snarling as it bounces over rutted earth, four-wheel drive gripping like an infantryman's boots in the Argonne. But Bantam's too small to mass-produce. Maxwell knows it, the room knows it. Whispers ripple, Willys has the guts for it. By evening the contracts splinter. Bantam gets the nod for the original design, but Willys and Ford are looped in to scale it up. The specs are ironclad. 1,300 pounds max, climb a 60% grade, Ford 18 inches of water, tow 3/4 ton. No frills, just raw utility. As the sun dips behind the Potomac, Maxwell stamps the approvals, murmuring to his aide, "This little beast might just save our boys' hides." Fast forward to July 1941, and the Willys MB takes shape in Toledo's factories, its sheet metal body hammered out like armor plating. The engine, a snarling 60-horsepower Go Devil 4-cylinder, borrowed from Willys civilian trucks but tuned for war, promises to outrun anything on four wheels, or tracks, in rough country. Over 640,000 will roll off lines by war's end, but right now it's a gamble. Test drivers push prototypes across the Ohio River bottoms, mud flying, the open-top cabs exposing them to whipping rain. "Feels like riding a Bronco with a machine gun," one sergeant jokes, but his eyes betray the thrill. "This thing corners like a jeepney in the jungle, hauls ammo crates without flinching." By November, the first MB shipped to Camp Hollibird for trials. Picture it, a convoy snaking through Maryland's backroads, the Jeeps, already earning the nickname from a 1936 Popeye cartoon strip about Jeep, as slang for a foolhardy recruit, darting ahead of lumbering trucks. Soldiers climb in, the bench seats rough under their fatigues, the canvas windshields flapping. Lieutenant Ellis "Slick" Harper, a wiry reconnaissance officer from the 1st Armored Division, guns one across a creek bed. Water sprays up, soaking his boots, but the low-range gearbox bites, pulling them through. "This ain't no truck," he radios back, voice crackling over the SEER 536 handheld. "It's a damn mule with an engine." Word spreads like wildfire through the ranks. In training maneuvers at Fort Bragg, Jeeps ferry radio men to forward positions, their 7.50x16 tires chewing through pine barrens that bog down half-tracks. Generals take note. Eisenhower himself, touring the camps, climbs into one and grins. "If we win this war," he tells aides, "it'll be with wheels like these." But the real test looms across the ocean. As Pearl Harbor shatters the illusion of isolation on December 7, 1941, crates of Jeeps load onto Liberty ships bound for North Africa. The MB's debut isn't in glory, it's in the grit of Operation Torch. November 8, 1942. Beaches of Casablanca, waves crashing under a Mediterranean moon. Private First Class Tommy Ruiz, a Brooklyn kid with the 1st Infantry Division, hunkers in the surf as Higgins' boats grind ashore. Bullets zip from Vichy French positions, but amid the chaos, Jeeps rumble off landing craft ramps, their lightweight frames slipping past the heavier vehicles stuck in sand. Ruiz grabs a ride with his platoon sergeant, the Jeep's engine purring low as it weaves through dunes, dodging fire from French 75mm guns. "Hang on," the sergeant yells, wrenching the wheel. The vehicle bucks over a shell crater, ammo cans rattling in the back, but it holds. By dawn, Jeeps are everywhere, scouting enemy lines, towing 37mm anti-tank guns into position, even mounting 50 caliber Brownings for mobile fire support. In the push inland toward Oran, they outpace the Axis, their 100-mile range on a tank of 72-octane gas keeping patrols fluid. Ruiz, bruised but alive, watches one Jeep laden with wounded bounce back to the beachhead. "Without these," he mutters to a corpsman, we'd be sitting ducks. The generals see it too. Patton, pacing his command tent in Morocco, slams a fist on a map. Mobility, boys, that's the key. These jeeps give us legs the Krauts can't match. From the deserts of Tunisia to the hedgerows of Sicily, the Willys MB proves its mettle, ferrying troops where tanks fear to tread. But as Allied forces eye Europe, the true conquest begins. Rapid maneuvers that will turn the tide or doom the slow-footed. February 14, 1943. The barren passes of Fade, Tunisia, where the wind howls like a banshee across the sun-baked hills, carrying the acrid tang of cordite and diesel. Sergeant Hank Dusty Malone, 34th Infantry Division, grips the steering wheel of his Willys MB, knuckles white against the vibrating dash. The Jeep's tires churn through powdery sand, kicking up plumes that sting his eyes under the brim of his M1936 helmet. Beside him, Corporal Eddie Vasquez hunches over a .30 caliber M1919 machine gun, its barrel trained on the ridgeline where Rommel's panzers lurk like shadows in the haze. The air raid sirens from the Luftwaffe Stukas still echo in their ears, dive bombers that screamed down hours ago, shredding American columns like paper. Now, in the aftermath of Kasserine Pass, the 1st Armored Division's remnants scramble to regroup. Malone floors the accelerator, the Go Devil engine roaring to 4,000 revolutions per minute, propelling the 2,500-pound frame, now laden with extra jerry cans and a radio set, up a 30-degree incline that would stall a half-track. Eyes sharp, Eddie, Malone shouts over the whine, the canvas top long since stowed to avoid snags. Those tigers could be anywhere. You felt the desperation in the dispatches. Green GIs rushed from stateside training, facing Africa Corps veterans who've danced across Libya. The jeeps, shipped by the thousands since Torch, are the lifeline, scouting ahead where Sherman's bog in wadis, their narrow 60-inch wheelbase slipping through goat paths too tight for trucks. Vasquez spots movement, a glint of steel on the horizon. Contacts, 12 o'clock. Looks like half-tracks. He traverses the gun, the jeep skidding to a halt behind a boulder outcrop. Bullets ping off the fenders as Malone reverses, the four-wheel drive engaging with a mechanical growl, hauling them back to relay coordinates via the BC-611 backpack radio. Back at the command post, a cluster of tents near Spitla, Major General Lloyd Fredendall paces, his face etched with the strain of 48 hours without sleep. Maps sprawl across a folding table marked with red pins where the Germans have punched through. 2,000 casualties, 100 tanks lost, supplies scattered like chaff. Damn it, we need eyes on those flanks, he barks to his staff, the flap of a jeep pulling up outside cutting him short. Lieutenant Colonel John Waterman dismounts, mud-caked boots thudding, clutching a field report. Sir, Malone's patrol just evaded a Mark III ambush 5 miles east. They got a fix on the Panzer column, heading for the pass at 20 miles per hour. Fredendall nods, the pieces clicking. Jeeps aren't just transport, they're the nervous system of the line. In the chaos of Kasserine, they ferried ammo from depots 50 miles rearward, their 105-mile range on a full tank outpacing horse-drawn carts that the Brits still rely on. Picture the scene. Convoys of a dozen MBs, each towing a 37mm M3 anti-tank gun on its split-trail carriage, bouncing over minefields cleared by engineers. Drivers like Malone navigate by compass and dead reckoning, the exposed cabs leaving them vulnerable to 88mm flak bursts that crater the earth. By nightfall, as stars prick the ink-black sky, the jeeps enable a counter-thrust. Patton arrives from Morocco, his staff car trailing a dust cloud, but it's the jeeps that swarm his temporary HQ. Give me speed, gentlemen, Patton growls, cigar clenched, pointing to the Tebessa road. These pop cans on wheels, get 'em out front. Under moonlight, patrols fan out. One jeep, driven by Private Leroy Jenkins from the 9th Infantry, carries a forward observer with an M1 periscope. They creep within 800 yards of a German supply dump, the engine idling at a whisper. Spotters confirm, fuel trucks, maybe 20, Jenkins whispers into the radio handset. Artillery coordinates fly back. 105mm howitzers from the 34th open up, shells whistling overhead. The barrage hits home, flames erupting like desert bonfires. But retaliation comes swift. A Messerschmitt Bf 109 strafes low, tracers raking the sand. Jenkins swerves, the jeep's low center of gravity saving it from flipping as it dives into a ravine. Keep moving, he yells to his gunner, who returns fire with the pintle-mounted Thompson submachine gun, bullets sparking off the fighter's canopy. They make it back by dawn, the jeep scarred but operational, a testament to its 1/8-inch steel body that shrugs off small arms fire. Word filters up the chain. Eisenhower, monitoring from Algiers, wires praise for the quarter-ton miracles. In the following weeks, as Montgomery squeezes Rommel from the east at El Alamein, American jeeps orchestrate the western pincer. At El Getter in March, they tow 57mm guns into olive groves, their winches hauling pieces over rocky terraces where tractors fail. Infantry squads ride double, M1 Garand slung, as jeeps dash messages between isolated units, bypassing jammed field phones severed by saboteurs. Malone, nursing a sprained wrist from the wheel's kickback, watches from a ridge as the Africa corpse reels. These things saved our asses, he tells Vasquez, sharing a ration of K-rations under a camouflaged net. The sergeant from the 26th Infantry Regiment nods, wiping grease from his hands. Heard the old man Patton, says we're gonna need him for Sicily next. Indeed, as Tunisia falls by May 1943, with over 250,000 Axis troops surrendering, the Jeeps tally their toll, countless lives spared by rapid evacuations, breakthroughs enabled where terrain mocked heavier armor. But the war's pivot looms larger. D-Day planners in London pore over after-action reports, noting how Jeeps turned desert defeat into victory. From the scorched earth of North Africa, they carry the Allies northward, engines humming promises of faster pursuits. Yet in the mud and bocage of Europe, their true metal will be forged, or broken. July 10, 1943. The pre-dawn gloom off Gela, Sicily, where the Mediterranean churns like a cauldron under a canopy of Allied paratroopers drifting from C-47s like ghosts in the wind. Sergeant Maria Rizzo Lombardi, no relation to the locals, but her Italian roots from Jersey make the irony sting, clings to the side of a landing craft, the salt spray lashing her face as the ramp drops into waist-deep surf. Waves crash against the hull of the USS Charles Carroll, and ahead, the beaches stretch dark and foreboding, lit only by the sporadic flare of tracers from Italian coastal guns. But amid the roar of engines and the shouts of men, a familiar growl cuts through. Jeeps, their Willys MB frames lashed to the decks of LSTs, engines idling impatiently. Lombardi's unit, the 45th Infantry Division's reconnaissance platoon, has drilled this for months, Operation Husky, the Allied boot on Europe's throat. As the boat grinds ashore, shells from offshore destroyers, 16 inches from the USS Texas, pound the cliffs, shaking the earth like thunder gods at war. Private First Class Gino Moretti, her driver, leaps into the water first, waiting to unlash their Jeep from the ramp. The vehicle splashes down, its amphibious kits, rubber bellows around the axles, allowing it to float briefly before the tires bite sand. Move, move. Rizzo yells, slinging her carbine as Moretti guns the starter, the Go Devil coughing to life amid the chaos. You've heard the briefings. Sicily's terrain is a beast, volcanic rock, terraced vineyards, and mule tracks winding through the Madani mountains that mock tanks and trucks. The Jeeps, now battle-tested from Tunisia with reinforced bumpers and extra pintle mounts 430 calories are the spearhead. Moretti wrenches the wheel, the 80-inch wheelbase navigating the littered beach where heavier ducus flounder in the tide. Bullets whip from pillboxes atop the dunes, an Italian Breda 37mm chattering defiance, but the Jeep zigs through shell holes, its low silhouette hugging the ground. Rizzo traverses the mounted M1919, squeezing off bursts that stitch the sand. Flank left, there's a gap, she calls, spotting a path through barbed wire. By midday, as paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne link up in the scrub inland, Jeeps swarm the beachhead like ants on a carcass. Lieutenant Colonel George S. Patton, now commanding the U.7th Army, strides from his command Jeep, a customized MB with extra radios and a siren that wails like a banshee. Gentlemen, this island's ours if we move like the devil, he bellows to his staff, the dust from idling engines coating his jodhpurs. Maps unroll on the hood. Palermo to the west, Messina to the east, 250 miles of hairpin roads where the Axis has mined every bridge. Patton's eyes narrow. He knows from Kasserine that foot soldiers and half-tracks alone spell doom against counterattacks. The push begins at dawn the next day. Convoys form. Strings of Jeeps, each towing a 105mm M2A1 howitzer on its wheeled carriage or hauling 800-pound generators for field hospitals. Rizzo's patrol leads the 1st Infantry's advance toward Nissimi, the Jeep bouncing over lava fields that shred tires on lesser vehicles. Watch the ruts, Etna spewing ash up north, Moretti warns, downshifting into low range as they climb a 40% grade. The engine strains but holds, the 4-speed transmission with its 2-speed transfer case gnawing through the incline. From the passenger seat, Rizzo scans with binoculars, spotting German Fallschirmjäger paratroops digging in on Hill 673. Enemy at 2 o'clock. Looks like 88s, she radios, the N/Arc 1 set crackling to artillery spotters miles back. Shells scream in response, the Jeep veering off the road into an olive orchard to avoid the blasts. Shrapnel peppers the leaves, but the open body allows quick bailout. Rizzo and Moretti dive behind the engine block, its iron heart shielding them as a 75mm round detonates nearby. They remount, the vehicle lurching forward, its 2.72 to 1 low-range ratio powering through the debris. By evening, they've relayed fire missions that shatter the German line, enabling infantry to overrun the position. Casualties stream rearward on Jeeps rigged as ambulances, stretchers lashed across the hoods, medics barking orders over the din. Patton presses the tempo. In the race for Palermo, Jeeps outflank the mafia-tied partisans who sometimes aid, sometimes hinder, scooting along coastal tracks where panzers wedge in the narrows. At Troina in August, amid the mountains, a platoon of MBs, modified with winches and come-alongs, hauls 57mm anti-tank guns up sheer escarpments, their 3,000-pound tow capacity defying gravity. Sergeant Lombardi, promoted in the field, coordinates from her Jeep's hood, the wind whipping her scarf as Luftwaffe Ju-87s dive. "Anti-air now," she shouts, and tracers from Jeep mounted 50 caliber M2s arc skyward, downing one Stuka in a plume of smoke. Eisenhower, from his Algiers villa, receives the reports. Jeeps have covered 100 miles in days, evacuating 500 wounded and delivering 10 tons of ammo where supply lines fray. "Without them," he confides to aide Captain Butcher, "we'd be mired like the Brits at Anzio later." But Sicily's conquest, completed by September 17 with Mussolini toppling in the wake, hints at greater trials. As the Allies eye the Italian mainland, Salerno's beaches call. Operation Avalanche, September 9, 1943. Jeeps unload under fire from Gustav Line defenses, their versatility turning muddy olive groves into mobile HQs. Private Moretti, dodging 20mm flak from a Fiat Seer 42 overhead, ferries a signals team up the Sorrento Peninsula. The Jeep skids on rain-slicked cobbles, headlights blacked out, navigating by the glow of a hooded flashlight. "This road's a goat path," he grumbles, but the independent front suspension, simple leaf springs, soaks the jolts, keeping the radio antenna steady. They reach the 36th Infantry's forward line at Altavilla, where Germans counter with Nebelwerfers, screaming rockets that light the night. The Jeep becomes a command post on wheels, Patton's voice booming over the link. "Push, damn you, mobility wins wars." Through the winter rains of Italy, Jeeps conquer the Apennines, towing pack mules when tracks fail, their 18-inch ground clearance fording swollen rivers like the Volturno. Generals like Clark realize the truth. Without these go-anywhere scouts, the slow grind of mountain warfare would doom divisions to attrition. From Sicily's lava to Italy's mud, the Willys MB evolves. Armored variants emerging, machine gun Jeeps forming ad hoc armored cars. But the grand stage awaits. Normandy's beaches, where the Jeep will dash from hedgerow to Rhine, or leave the Allies vulnerable in the open. June 6, 1944. Omaha Beach, Normandy, the hour after H-hour, where the tide sucks at the blood-soaked shingle and the air reeks of cordite, brine, and fear. Private First Class Jimmy Tex Harlan, 29th Infantry Division, coughs salt water from his lungs as he scrambles from the surf, his pack heavy with sea rations and a collapsed SR 300 radio. Bodies bob in the waves behind him. Higgins' boats splintered by 88mm fire from the bluffs, and ahead, the concrete pillboxes of WN-62 spit death. But through the smoke, a throaty rumble pierces the din. Jeeps, their Willys MB hulls emerging from submerged dukus like mechanical otters, engines sputtering but defiant as waves crash over their radiators. Harlan grabs the fender of the nearest one, driven by Corporal Lena Sparks Kowalski from the 2nd Armored Signals Detachment, one of the few women in the thick of it, ferrying comms gear under fire. The Jeep's tires spin in the wet sand, the four-wheel drive churning forward as Kowalski guns it, the Go Devil 60 horses pulling through the undertow. "Climb on," she shouts, her voice raw over the crack of Garins. Harlan hauls himself aboard, the bench seat slick with spray, as the vehicle weaves past a wrecked M4 Sherman, its turret askew like a fallen giant. Bullets ricochet off the hood, but the low-slung frame, now fitted with deep-water fording kits, hugs the beach, dodging craters where Rangers fell scaling the cliffs. You've seen the maps in the briefings. Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, Sword, 5,000 ships unleashing 156,000 troops against Hitler's Atlantic Wall. But the Jeeps, over 13,000 loaded across the Armada, are the veins pumping life into the invasion. Kowalski navigates the chaos, the Jeep's 51-inch width slipping between obstacles that snare half-tracks. Eyes on the draw. Harlan yells, pointing to a mined exit ramp where sappers blast paths with Bangalore torpedoes. The vehicle bucks over a body-strewn rise, its leaf spring suspension absorbing the jolts, delivering the radio team to a makeshift CP amid the dunes. There, Major Tom Bradley unrolls a silk escape map on the hood, the wind tugging at its edges. "Give me fire support, those 105s offshore need targets now." By noon, as the beachhead clings by threads, Jeeps fan out into the bocage, those cursed Norman hedgerows, earthen banks topped with brambles that turn roads into kill zones. Lieutenant General Omar Bradley, watching from the USS Augusta offshore, paces his bridge, binoculars fogged. Reports crackle in, "Omaha's a slaughter, GIs pinned, vehicles bogged." He knows the stakes. Without mobility, the lodgment crumbles under 88s and MG-42s. But the MBs prove nimble. Patrols like Harlan scout the lanes, their narrow profile darting through gaps where Shermans founder in the mud. One Jeep, towing a 57mm M1 gun, crests a bank. The crew dismounts, shoving the barrel through foliage to ambush a Panzer IV probing the line. The gun cracks, the round punching through tracks. The tank slews and retreating crew scatters under Thompson fire. Eisenhower, from his forward HQ in a Portsmouth chateau, absorbs the dispatches. Jeeps have evacuated 200 wounded in the first hours, their stretchers rigged fore and aft, medics clinging to the sides as they ford flooded fields. These quarter tons are worth their weight in gold, he tells Aide General Bedell Smith, the invasion's success hinging on such edges. Inland at Vierville, a convoy of 20 jeeps, modified with hedgerow cutters welded to the bumpers, leads the 101st Airborne's link-up. Sergeant Harlan, now at the wheel after Kowalski takes a graze, powers through a sunken lane, brambles snagging the canvas. Jerry's dug in at that farm, Stugs covering the approach, he radios the BC 611 set buzzing. Bazooka teams pile off, the Jeep reversing to cover with its 30 calories. The breakout builds slowly. By June 13th, as Mulberry Harbors take shape, Jeeps haul engineers' bulldozers to widen roads, their winches dragging felled trees for bridges over the Vire. Patton, chafing in England with the Third Army, wires Bradley, "Give me the beachhead and I'll show you speed." But it's the Jeeps that enable the first thrusts, carrying pathfinders to mark routes for the 4th Armored, their 100-mile range scouting 20 miles ahead under moonlight. At Corentin in late June, amid pouring rain that turns fields to quagmires, a Jeep mounted 50 calories rakes a German counterattack, the gunner traversing as the driver circles, the 4-speed gearbox dancing gears to keep distance. Generals realize the doom without them. Bradley, in a hedgerow CP near St. Lo, watches a staff Jeep arrive with ammo, crates of 45 ACP and grenades, just as Nebelwerfers rain down. "If we'd relied on trucks," he mutters to his chief of staff, "we'd be static targets." The bocage war drags, but Jeeps adapt. Rhino modifications, steel teeth on prows, allow Shermans to burst through banks, guided by MB scouts. By July, as Operation Cobra looms, over 40,000 Jeeps at the Normandy front, ferrying Montgomery's Brits too, who dubbed them Yank buggies with grudging respect. Harlan, bandaged but back at it, drives a night patrol toward Coutances. The Jeep's blackout lights cast faint beams, engine muffled by an exhaust deflector. Fog rolls in from the channel, muffling the distant rumble of P-47s. "This thing's a ghost," he whispers to his radio man as they evade a Fallschirmjäger ambush, the low-range four-wheel slipping silently through a orchard. They spot the buildup. German reinforcements funneled by rail, ripe for air strikes. Coordinates beamed back, trigger thunderbolts, bombs walking the earth. Dawn breaks on a shifting tide, allies pushing, Axis reeling. But the real dash awaits. As Cobra erupts on July 25th, with 3,000 bombers carpet bombing St. Lo, Jeeps surge into the gap. Patton's Third Army, unleashed August 1st, mounts up, endless columns, MBs leading the charge across France. From the Norman mud to the Seine's bridges, the Willys conquers, turning pursuit into rout. Without it, the generals know victory would crawl, or stall. August 1st, 1944. The shattered crossroads of Avranches, Normandy, where the summer sun beats down on a landscape scarred by Cobra's fury, craters pockmarking fields, the acrid smoke of 7,000 tons of bombs still lingering like a shroud. Lieutenant Colonel Harlan Hawk Reeves, 4th Armored Division, stands atop his Willys MB's hood, binoculars pressed to his eyes as the Third Army roars to life under Patton's iron fist. The air vibrates with the growl of hundreds of engines, tanks, trucks, but leading the pack, Jeeps weave like hornets, their dust trails merging into a brown haze that chokes the horizon. Reeves' own MB, scarred from bocage skirmishes with welded armor plates in a 50 calories M2 heavy machine gun, idles impatiently, jerry cans lashed to the rear fenders sloshing with precious 80-octane fuel. Patton, cigar smoldering in his teeth, climbs down from his customized command Jeep, a sleek MB with extra antennas sprouting like porcupine quills and a red license plate reading XX. He slaps the hood, his voice a whip crack over the din. "Gentlemen, we're not here to die for our country, we're here to make the other poor bastards die for theirs. These Jeeps are our legs, use them to run the Krauts ragged." The words ignite the column. 300,000 men, 100,000 vehicles, but it's the 40,000 Jeeps, now the Army's workhorses from recon to ambulance, that promise the breakout speed. You've poured over the orders. Mortain to the Seine, 300 miles in weeks, outflanking the Wehrmacht before they regroup. Reeves guns his engine, the Go Devil four-cylinder barking as the Jeep surges ahead of the 66th Armored Regiment's Shermans. The road to Coutances is a ribbon of chaos. Wrecked panzers from the 116th Division smolder, Luftwaffe wrecks litter the verges, but the MB darts through, its 7.00x16 tires gripping the macadam at 50 miles per hour. Beside him, Sergeant Elena Vasquez, transferred from signals after Normandy, clutches the radio handset, her fingers flying over the frequency dials. Eagle 1 to base. Enemy armor retreating east on Route D999, estimate 20 mark versus. She transmits, the AN/GRC9 set humming. The Jeep's narrow frame slips past the toppled Tiger, turret askew as French civilians cheer from doorways, tossing apples that bounce off the fenders. By August 7th, the dash accelerates into legend. Patton spearheads, Jeep-led task forces, bypass strong points, probing for gaps in the German line stretched thin by the Falaise pocket. At Argenton, Reeves' patrol crests a rise, the engine straining in second gear up the incline. Below, chaos unfolds. The 2nd SS Panzer Division in disarray, fuel-starved Panthers idling helplessly as Allied Typhoons strafe from above. Spotters mark those tanks, grid 23 to 45. Vasquez calls and P-47s respond, rockets blooming like fireworks. The Jeep circles wide, its low-range transfer case engaged to ford a rain-swollen stream, water surging over the floorboards but the sealed ignition holding firm. Generals back at SEF watch the miracle unfold. Eisenhower, in his tent near Bayeux, pores over the situation map, pins marching eastward like an unstoppable tide. Patton's boys are covering ground we dreamed of, he tells Montgomery over the secure line, the British general grumbling about Yank speed. Bradley nods, recalling Kasserine. Without the Jeeps, we'd be crawling like in Italy. They haul supplies where bridges are out, towing 1-ton trailers at 40 miles per hour. Indeed, logistics bend to the MB's will, convoys stretch 50 miles, Jeeps shuttling ammo from Cherbourg's port, their 18-inch clearance navigating bomb craters that swallow deuce and a halves. The pursuit turns frantic. On August 19th, as the Falaise trap snaps shut, Jeeps swarm the pocket's edges. Recon elements like Reeves slipping through bocage remnants to direct artillery. Picture it, a dozen MBs, each with a bazooka team aboard, darting along farm tracks under cover of dusk. German stragglers, Wehrmacht and SS, fire from haystacks, but the Jeep's mobility shines. Quick stops, dismounts and re-embarkations, the 4-speed gearbox allowing bursts to outrun pursuing half-tracks. Vasquez takes a round in the shoulder during a close scrape near Chambois, but Reeves binds it with a field dressing from the glove box, the Jeep racing to a MASH unit 10 miles back. Hang in dash, this bird's got more miles, he mutters, the engine's reliability, 99% uptime in field reports, a godsend. By the Seines crossing on August 25th, Paris liberated in a sideshow, the Jeeps have conquered 400 miles from Normandy. Patton, at a forward CP near Mantes-la-Jolie, reviews the tally, 50,000 Germans bagged, divisions shattered. These damn Jeeps, he tells his aide General Hobart Gay, they're why we're not doomed to a slog. Variants proliferate, C Jeeps for river ops with outboard motors, Screaming Eagles for the 101st fitted with 81mm mortars. In the Vosges Mountains come September as the push stalls at the Siegfried line, Jeeps tow pack howitzers up muddy slopes, their winches, 1,500-pound pull, hauling where mules slip. Reeves, promoted to captain, leads a winter patrol in the Hürtgen forest by November, the Jeep's chains biting into snow as Ardennes fog rolls in. But the bulge strikes December 16th, Hitler's last gamble. Jeeps evacuate Baston's perimeter, ferrying the 101 Estes battered bastards through blizzards, their heaters jury-rigged from stove parts. At Houffalize, a Jeep column under fire from King Tigers holds the line. 30 calories chattering until Shermans arrive. Generals like Patton see the endgame. Rhine crossings in March 1945, Jeeps bridging the river on pontoons, scouting the Ruhr. From Avranches to the Elbe, the Willys MB, over 640,000 built, from Toledo to the front, turns American might mobile. Without it, the dash falters, the war drags. But as V-Day nears, engines idle in Germany's rubble, a quiet testament to conquest. December 7, 1944, 3 years to the day since Pearl Harbor's betrayal, the volcanic shores of Leyte Gulf, Philippines, where monsoon rains lash the palm-fringed beaches like vengeful spirits. Sergeant Tomas Ranger Delgado, 1st Cavalry Division, a Filipino-American from Manila streets, hunkers behind the dashboard of his Willys MB as the ramp of an LST slams down into churning surf. The air pulses with the thunder of naval guns from the USS Missouri offshore, shells arcing toward Japanese positions on the heights. But the real storm brews in the undergrowth. IJ bunkers honeycombed with 75mm Type 90 cannons, ready to shred the landing. Delgado's Jeep, splashed with jungle camouflage and fitted with a snorkel for river fords, roars forward, its tires slicing through coral sand as water cascades over the hood. The engine chugs against the tide, the Go Devils waterproofing, rubber seals on the distributor, holding as the vehicle powers ashore, trailing a wake like a speedboat. Private Kenji Mule Sato, his radioman of Japanese descent from Hawaii's internment camps, grips the 30 calories M1919A4, eyes scanning the treeline where snipers lurk. Contact, machine guns at 10 o'clock. Sato yells, the Jeep veering left as bullets chew the fronds. Delgado floors it, the four-wheel drive propelling them up the beach toward Dulag Airfield, where MacArthur's forces aim to seize the strip for P-38 Lightnings. You've traced the island-hopping maps. Guadalcanal to Tarawa, now Leyte, Jeeps bridging the gaps where LVTs falter on land. Back in Europe, V-Day dawned May 8, 1945, with Jeeps parading through Berlin's ruins, but across the Pacific the war rages on, the MB's global reach spanning theaters. Over 200,000 shipped to the Far East since 42, they've conquered where tanks drown in swamps. Delgado's patrol leads the 24th Infantry's push inland, the Jeep's 34-inch wheelbase threading through coconut groves that swallow Sherman's whole. Mud sucks at the tires, ladies red clay a quagmire after typhoons, but the low-range gearbox bites, climbing embankments at 5 miles per hour. Keep her steady, bridge out ahead. Sato radios, the BC-611 crackling to artillery spotters calling in 155mm long toms from the 11th Corps. Generals like MacArthur realized the peril without them. From his HQ on the USS Nashville, Doug paces, ash from his corncob pipe scattering over maps. These jeeps are our mules in the jungle, without 'em we're blind and bogged, he tells Aide General Kenny, recalling how in New Guinea's Owen Stanley Range, MBs towed 37mm guns up the Kokoda track, outpacing Australian Bren gun carriers. On Leyte, as the Battle of Ormoc Bay rages November 1944, jeeps ferry the 77th Division's ammo, crates of 81mm mortar rounds, across 20 miles of flooded rice paddies, their 18-inch clearance fording streams where Japanese Zeros strafe overhead. Sato returns fire, tracers lacing the sky, downing a Val dive bomber that plummets into the surf. The conquest builds. By January 1945 in the Luzon campaign, jeeps swarm Manila's outskirts, modified ditch diggers with front-mounted plows clearing barbed wire and debris. Delgado, now leading a recon squad, navigates the Cagayan Valley's Carabao trails, the jeep hauling a 60mm mortar tube that barks at IJ holdouts in caves. Rain hammers the canvas top, turning paths to rivers, but the independent suspension, coil springs on prototypes, but leafs tough as nails, soaks the pounding. Enemy column, trucks and infantry heading north, he reports the N/Arc 5 set linking to Air Corps Mustangs that pounce, bombs rippling the jungle canopy. Across the theater, adaptations shine. In Burma with Merrill's Marauders, jeeps mount 4 2-inch chemical mortars, their 1,000-pound payload capacity enabling guerrilla raids deep behind lines. On Iwo Jima's Black Sands, February 1945, MBs, now with armored windshields against 20mm fire, evacuate wounded from Suribachi slopes, medics navigating shell-pocked terrain where Amtrak strand. Admiral Nimitz wires praise, these vehicles turn islands into highways. On Okinawa, April's Typhoon of Steel, jeeps tow 105mm howitzers to reverse slopes, their winches pulling through kunai grass where 320mm kamikaze strikes light the night. Eisenhower, reflecting from Reims Post VE, cables the Pacific. Your jeeps mirror ours, mobility's the war's soul. But the toll mounts, 640,000 produced from Willis-Toledo lines to Ford's Willow Run, each MB logging 50,000 miles in hellscapes from El Alamein to Eniwetok. Generals across commands, Patton in Europe, MacArthur in Asia, grasp the doom averted. Static armies fall to attrition, but the jeep's versatility, scout, gun jeep, command car, conquers every battlefield from desert to atoll. August 14, 1945. Tokyo Bay, aboard the USS Missouri as Japan's surrender scribes sign. Delgado's jeep idles on a pier, engine purring amid cheering GIs, a symbol of the machine that ferried victory. From 1941's bids to VJ Day's peace, the Willys MB didn't just move men, it moved the world. Without it, the Allies' doom loomed in every theater. But with it, conquest was inevitable.